Okay, hearing no objection, the minutes from our last meeting, October 12th, 2020 have been approved. Do I hear a motion to lay the executive reports on the table in order to hear from the wonderful Caitlin Mitchell?
Oh, hi, I can speak. I didn't. Hi, everyone. I'm Caitlin. I am the campus organizer for Rutgers Newark, and I'm NJ and I'm just here, just to observe your weekly meeting. But also, is this the time where I can give my announcement? This is my point. I just want to make sure I'm like, okay, great. So we have as you guys know, the deadline just passed to register for everyone to register to vote. But now we are working to get out the vote. And so this Saturday, the 24th, it's National Vote Early Day. So from 12 to 5 p.m., we're going to be calling and texting students across the state to make sure they actually have a plan to cast their ballot before or on Election Day. So you can join us for however many hours you can and invite your friends. And I'm going to drop a link for the RSVP form. And it's going to be themed. So wear your Halloween costume or any variation of that. We're all going to be wearing Halloween costumes. It's going to be really fun. So I urge all of you guys to join. That's my speech.
Fantastic. Thank you. And can you just give the date and time of the events again?
Yes, it's going to be this Saturday, October 24th from 12 to 5 p.m.
All right. Thank you so much. If you send the flyers or any promotional materials to runsga@gmail.com or to our Instagram, our media centers and our team can definitely help promote that as well. All right, thank you so much. All right. So we're going to be returning to the agenda with executive board reports. First off, just once again, I do want to reiterate, all SGA materials are now available via the SGA archive. Please do share the link, let your friends know, let your classmates know everything that we're doing to support them on campus. And this includes all of the legislation and hard work that was accomplished by the 2018-2019 legislative session as well. It has Robert's rules. It has both an abbreviated manual and a full manual. Everything that you need for SJ is right in this Google folder. Please do take a look at it and read through the charter and bylaws if you have not done so already. Talking briefly about Judicial Council, I'm not sure if any other executive board members have any updates, but the three arbitrators who were appointed as of our last meeting have all been onboarded, and the Judicial Council is now active. So they will be taking a look at the appeals process for any complaints or violations filed during our fall 2020 elections. Are there any other updates from the executive board?
I think that basically covers it. Thank you, Harrison. Yeah, so I don't have my other nominee yet. I'm looking to have that next week. So if someone is appointed today, they'll be onboarded, but won't be able to be a voting member until the other one is onboarded as well, just because we can't have like an even number on the Judicial Council.
I forgot to mention that. Would the president mind giving updates on the chancellor's meeting before our our chief of finance clarifies the general funds?
Sure. Okay, everyone. This kind of just happened like rapidly. So, it just might be like a little short notice for you, but it was for us as well. So we were looking to have, every semester, SGA has like a meeting with the chancellor and her team. So we're afforded that opportunity, which is awesome. A lot of campuses aren't able to do that. So usually we compile a list of like topics or initiatives, with the Senate that we want to do. We were going to push this off to like mid-November, just so we could get more feedback from you all, and so we could kind of like coordinate everything better. But President Holloway reached out, and he's setting up a student advisory committee. So this is like a first. This is like historic. Barchi never would do anything like that. And how it's set up is that he requested it be 12 students. So it would be 4 from each campus, which is awesome because it's equal. That's great. And he wants it to be the president and vice president of each like campus respectively, and then 2 additional students. We're thinking like either like probably having the Black Student Caucus be involved in that, and then like the Senate can choose maybe another senator. That was part of the discussion. That's not finalized yet. We're still figuring that out. But because the president reached out, wants to have a meeting, make it like a regular thing, like every month or so, we need to meet with the chancellor before then, because it's like we've pushed off the meeting with the chancellor to like figure things out internally, but it's like we can't really meet with the president before the chancellor. So we're looking to have a meeting with the chancellor this Wednesday at 3 p.m. So it would be open for the executive board and the speaker of the Senate. And it'd be more of just like an informal discussion, kind of like talking about progress that's been made this semester and where we can move forward. I'm working with her team members individually because that's where we want to be effective. That's where like the majority of the work's going to be. That's something that's not really been utilized in the past, but we have like a revised list of, I guess, like topics of interest from the executive board, and we'll be sharing that with the speaker, and then you all can contribute, add new points, or make an existing point part of a broader point. But basically, this all happened very quickly, and just because the president reached out, we have to meet with the chancellor first, more or less.
Thank you, President. So we're going to be sharing some more updates from the executive board regarding the chancellor's meeting as it approaches, as well as some broader legislative and activist goals that we're going to be trying to implement. And of course, after we finalize those details, we'd love to get input from the rest of the Senate and all of you senators. Moving along, would we be able to have the Chief of Finance message in the chat some updates and clarification regarding the funds? Thank you so much. So I'm going to read it for those of you who don't have access to the chat or don't want, oh my gosh. All right, thank you. Thank you, Chief of Finance. Excuse me, okay. The SGA General Fund is the budget category amount of the total fund dedicated for Senate usage for any items you see fit. The funds within the General Fund are eligible to be used for any programs or events presented to the general body via a resolution and passed via, it should actually be a 2/3 vote. In correlation to our joint push to help as many students as possible during the global pandemic, I personally urge that these funds ought to be dedicated to relief programs. As Harrison briefly gave my ideas in the Senate caucus, some examples of relief programs might be parking or meal subsidies for at-risk or students in need. The emergency fund is another example of a relief program. For some brief history, the SGA Emergency Relief Fund is a temporary financial F account created last year to allocate funds that are usable by the care team to be given to any at-risk students in $500 or $1,000 increments. Last year, we opened the ability to contribute up to all student orgs, and together we allocated a total of $113,000 to this fund, $50,000 of which was initially allocated by the SGA. The majority of these funds were depleted by the end of the summer 2020 session. Just to be clear, the general fund is available for our use and fund allocations. The emergency fund is not. That is the SGA Emergency Relief Fund. SGA Emergency Relief Fund, or the Emergency Fund, may only have funds allocated to it without stipulations or requirements, and under no circumstances can these funds be taken back to be used in different ways. The Emergency Fund has been crucial in our ability to meet the needs of the students, but does not mean to be the only way we assist students. My original suggestion is to allocate somewhere near 50% of the available funds to the emergency fund and to allow for student org collaboration as we did in the spring. It is urgent that we allocate some funds to this account soon. However, as funds available to students will soon run dry if they have not already. Thank you so much. So typically we do not have questions during executive board reports, but I understand that's a lot of information. Are there any requests for information from the senators? And thank you for that, President. We will be receiving updated usage numbers for fall by tomorrow. Just to clarify, once again, the SGA General Fund is referring to the budget category in which we have the largest amount of funding. We can allocate that to any initiatives that benefit all students. The Emergency Relief Fund was established by a specific resolution last semester and is administered by the CARE team that gives need-based grants to students. If you are interested at looking more into the past efforts, this is the piece of legislation that established the SGA Emergency Relief Fund. All other legislation for 2018-2019 legislative, or actually it should have been 2019-2020, that's my mistake. 2019-2020 legislative session are also in the Google Drive folder. And thanks to University Senators Ricky, our Chief of Finance Will, Media Senator Quay, University Senator Sarah, and our wonderful Vice President Carolyn for helping to pass this piece of legislation. Are there any questions regarding the difference between the general fund or the emergency relief fund or anything that can be done with SGA funds? Okay, if you have any further questions, please reach out in the chat or message our Chief of Finance or our e-board. We'll now be moving on to committee reports. Seeing as our speaker is not present and there's no secretary for the Internal Affairs Committee, we'll be skipping the report. Are there any committee reports from the Elections Committee? Are there any committee reports from the Elections Committee regarding the status of the fall 2020 semester elections?
May I have the floor, Mr. Chairman?
Of course, recognized.
Hi there. Good morning, everyone. So some updates from the elections. We have concluded elections, not elections, campaign week this past Saturday night. Everything went smoothly. We did had some violations that were committed, and we submitted those notices promptly to the candidates that were sanctioned, awaiting any correspondence from the Judicial Council, seeing if they have heard and made any decisions in regards to any appeals, if their appeals will be granted. The ballot is ready, has everything, the language, the pictures and all that is all ready. We're just waiting for Elections Day, which will begin tomorrow, 8 a.m. and will go through next Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. We have also emailed the whole student body, like the elections rules, like how to conduct themselves, if they have to make a report. There's a link to them to report. We are also trying to do some outreach as well. We reached out to Dean LaFuente, and he's gonna help us distribute get out the vote flyers across the dorms. So that will be very helpful in us in trying to ensure that we get as high as a voter participation as possible, seeing that there is a very influx and interest in getting people in the SGA and all the positions that we were running for. There are 2 positions that are have filed an interest, RBS and UC, but we did put a write-in option for those positions, and so hopefully, as long as the eligibility lists, for those ballots show that it's going to be for that school, and then we do the background check and all that, they could also be incoming senators there from that direction as well. So lastly, I think I have another thing to say, and it's like leaving my mind. And yeah, I think Sarah unmuted herself, so I'm gonna yield my time to Sarah, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ricky. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I would just like to emphasize everything that Ricky had just said. This year's elections and the elections committee, I believe, are making great strides into ensuring that the students are
I believe you're muted, University Senator.
Oh my God, I literally have been talking for like 3 minutes. No, I wanted to say, I want to thank Ricky for giving the brief, update on what we're doing. And I do want to applaud the elections committee and all the senators that are on it for making great strides for ensuring that all the students have great accessibility to voting. We all know that the fall elections usually have extremely low turnout. So we're doing everything in our power to make sure that some sort of decent percentage of the student body votes. And we are also, one thing that we are doing is hopefully collecting videos from the candidates so we could promote them as the elections committee, as ensuring and encouraging students to vote. And for them, that's another way for them to be able to get their point of view and get their campaign points across. And we are in the process. I recently just contacted the chief arbitrator, Sam, so we could set up a meeting to discuss the all of the appeals and the possible appeals and the sanctions that have taken place, and so they can kind of understand what's happening on our end and be prepared for if any of the candidates wish to pursue the appeals route. And I don't know if Ricky mentioned this, but we also reached out to student organizations to promote the elections and to ensure that their members are also voting from a nonpartisan point of view, just, a way for them to vote. And I will be sharing the flyers with the media centers. Actually, Aqua's on the committee, so hopefully the SGA will be posting them soon, and we'll be sending out the email for the student body also soon.
Thank you very much, Elections Committee Chair. Okay, moving along in the agenda, the following item would be Senate reports. Are there any reports from university senators?
Mr. Chairman, can I have the floor?
Of course, thank you.
Thank you. Sasan, representative to the University Senate. Hi, everyone. So actually some conversations have been brought up about, the proctoring situation and everything that's happening. Mr. Chairman, I know you probably would like to say a few words about that, so I will leave that for you to lead, and then I will go off with some comments that I have. And we also have been talking about the Title IX changes that the federal government imposed and our university's response. So the Senate caucus has introduced an amendment to the charge that the Student Affairs Committee and the Academic Regulations ASRAC Committee had. And basically the report that was introduced would force or would encourage, I would say, sexual assault survivors to be cross-examined publicly. And we as a committee, as a Student Affairs Committee and the Senate caucus, think that's extremely problematic, because as a survivor, when survivors go through a traumatic experience, they should not be questioned publicly. And so we amended that. And it was approved by the Senate. And another update that I have is, I don't know if any other university senator wants to talk a little bit more about that, but that was basically the gist of it. And the third thing is we held elections committee, not elections committee, executive committee elections. And I am now the Newark representative to the elections. I keep saying elections committee, to the executive committee on University Senate. And we held student elections for the Board of Governors and Board of Trustees. So I don't really remember exactly who won for these, but they're both, I believe, from New Brunswick. So the only Newark representative that we have as of right now is on the executive committee. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much, University Senator. Once again, congratulations on your election to the Executive Committee. I appreciate your efforts in continuing to represent the Rutgers Newark student body and Rutgers Newark at large within University Senate. I do encourage anyone else who is interested in University Senate to check out the website. Since my role is a little bit nebulous at this point, but there will be elections for University Senate positions. And this is a very important role since they directly advise the Board of Governors and the President who play critical roles as the leaders of Rutgers University as an institution. I will add, from my own personal interest, activism, and training, a reason why it's particularly problematic for survivors to be cross-examined is much of the time outward expression of signs of anxiety or nervousness that are typically associated with deception are also some of the most common experiences shared by survivors, right? Such as not being able to recall exact details, right? There are psychological bases for all of this, and our legal system as a whole is not very friendly to survivors or upholding justice in that regard. Switching tracks to talk about Proctor Track. I had some updates from Dean Williams, and I'd love to hear more if our advisor has any further information to share. But as you may know, there was recently a data breach within the Proctor Track. It was shut down by its parent company without a replacement in place. The Office of Information Technology is currently searching for a replacement. But personally, I think this is a time for students to express their concerns over the use of this spyware, since it effectively tracks and logs a significant amount of student information, including even biometric information within other institutions, and has had security issues in the past. ProctorU as a service, not Proctor Track, a different company, has over 440,000 records leaked last month, and they have no limits on the data retention, which means even 10 years, 20 years after you graduate from an institution, they will still be holding onto your user information. Obviously, proctoring software poses issues for students with attention deficit disorders or issues focusing on the screen. It's already hard enough to function in a virtual environment, but proctoring software operates under the assumption that every student is equal and tests equally and performs in the same conditions, which we know is just not the case. There's also been issues with facial recognition software in recognizing students of color. So obviously, right, these software, while they make things easier for faculty and administrators and may help ensure accurate scores, they possess a barrier to education for students. The Electronic Frontier Foundation has an excellent link, which I posted in the chat, and I'm also putting it in our general SGA chat, which I encourage you to look at. And a little bit later into the meeting, I'd like to touch upon a few action points, but I'll leave it at that for the report. Are there any other university senators who would like to report from the meeting? Thank you. Are there any other university senators who would like to report from the University Senate meeting?
Oh, my bad. Mr. Chairman, may I request the floor?
Of course.
Hi, everyone. So at Friday's University and Governance and Structure Committee meeting, we basically discussed more in depth about the role of UCP, which is the commencement panel that like University Senate like has like what do you call it, a committee to like choose people to represent, and each of the chancellors commencement speaker panels. So usually I think there are like 9 seats in total. So 4 are chosen by the chancellor and 5 are chosen by people in the committee that I'm talking about right now. And so one of the issues that we were tasked to like kind of tackle was the fact that like this panel, which only meets twice a year or like once a year for 30 minutes, basically trying to decide who should represent these 5 seats. The issue has been like the timing of it, because you know commencement speakers are very hard to get, and the more time that we have, I guess that this committee is formed ahead of time, then the better chances of getting good commencement speakers and honorary degrees are greater. But that has been super difficult the last 4 years for University Senate to do that. So they've been trying to like come up with some reforms. So that's what we've been working on. And then also the other thing, which I was also tasked to do some research, and I will be contacting Dean Williams in email, is in regards to something that I spoke to, I guess, last month, in regards to how SGAs are formed and like what policy is there in place on each campuses. So I'm doing some of that research here in Newark, and I'm going to be doing some digging and history and like some history and fact finding in regards to this, and providing some insight to see, from there what to suggest to the committee. And that is all I have for University Senate. I do have a question though. Is by any chance, because there was one detail that I just remembered right now about the elections committee that I do want to share with everyone, if I may, or if it's out of order, then that's okay, cool. So the one thing that I just remembered, I remember last week I talked about the idea of having a ranked choice ballot, and I tested with some of the senators to see how that would work. And unfortunately, the way RadarLink has their things set up, it makes it very difficult to tally votes for ranked choice. It's not as clear as like the usual way that we usually see when we vote on RadarLink elections. So it was a really tough decision and very disappointing, but definitely something that to recommend for future elections committee is to definitely see if there's any possible way to like make it work. Another problem that I saw was also like, it might be confusing for some people, and a lot of voter education has to be invested in to the student body so that we can have a very, some type of like alternative to the usual way of voting. So for now, the ballots, when you get them on Tuesday, they would be the standard ones that we usually get every other semester, instead of the ranked choice. Really disappointed on my end, but we just didn't have the time. So yeah, so that concludes everything that I have to say. I yield my time back to the chairman.
Thank you, University Senator. We do appreciate all your efforts and all the efforts of the Elections Committee. And if you are able to document any of the potential issues, hopefully it can be taken up by following elections committees, and we can continue work on this. In regards to the findings regarding formation of SGAs, I highly encourage you to work with the Internal Affairs Committee, since we also have access to the Run SGA Google Drive as well. And I've been sorting through some of the previous governing documents and trying to add them to the archive. So thank you. Moving along, we are now talking about old business. So since the meeting adjourned before this could be handled at the last session, if there's no objection, we will approve the absence of RB Ascider Socket from the previous meeting on October 12th. Okay, hearing no objection, the absence is approved. The motion now before the floor is once again Judicial Council. The Senate is able to appoint one more associate arbitrator, and the president is also able to appoint one associate arbitrator, which will then be confirmed by the Senate. Once again, Judicial Council is responsible for interpreting the charter and bylaws. They're responsible for handling any cases or charges against SGA or with between two branches, as well as election violation appeals. After clarification from Dean Williams, they also must have a 2.5 GPA in order to serve, since they function as an officer within student government. So do I hear any nominations from the floor?
Mr. Chairman, may I be recognized?
Of course, thank you, Speaker.
A motion to nominate Andrew Ruiz for Judicial Council as Associate Arbitrator.
Would you be able to type the name in the chat and repeat that? I hear a motion to nominate Andrew as Associate Arbitrator.
Angie Ruiz is her name.
Angie, thank you so much. I hear a motion to nominate Angie Ruiz as Associate Arbitrator. Do I hear a second?
Seconded.
Okay, so it's been motioned by the speaker and seconded to nominate Angie Ruiz as arbitrator. It is now open to the floor for discussion. Is there any discussion from the floor in support or against the nomination of Angie Ruiz as Associate Arbitrator?
May I have the floor too?
Of course.
So I believe not only as a person who will put in her or encourage her to go for the position, but based on her resume and her letter of interest, she shows very much enthusiasm and very much has the qualifications for the position.
Thank you, Senator. Is there any further discussion from the floor? Okay, once again, just a brief review of Robert's rules. If you would like to present a main motion or a main motion or a secondary motion or a subsidiary motion, just ask to be recognized. Incidental motions typically do not need recognition or the floor. But hearing no further discussion, we will now move to a 2/3 vote on the nomination of Angie Ruiz as Associate Arbitrator. Madam Secretary, if you would.
All right. Tone on Zeet?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, Tanvi?
Yes.
Miriam? William?
No.
Adela?
Yes.
Aziza?
Yes.
Afnan? I'm not sure if he's here right now.
I don't think he's here.
Thank you. All right, Akwe?
Yes.
Sakita,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Swetha,
Yes.
Naveen,
Yes.
no problem. And Mira. Oh, she requested to be absent. Oh, you're here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Sorry
Sorry.
about that. No problem. Camila,
Yes.
Ricky,
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So yep, we have over 2/3 vote for yes.
Thank you, Secretary. With 13 votes, 13. Yes, with 13 votes for and 1 vote against, we do have a 2/3 majority, and Angie Ruiz is confirmed as the 3rd and final associate arbitrator appointed from the Senate. So congratulations to Angie Ruiz. If the speaker would please let her know, or let Angie know, and Angie Ruiz will be able to serve on Judicial Council after the president's appointee is confirmed, so we can have an odd number. Does the president have an appointee?
No, I'll have the nominee next week after some consideration. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman,
President.
oh, sorry. May I be recognized
Of course.
in the room? Thank you. I know that Jeremiah is here, and I'm sorry, oh, Jeremy, I'm not sure how I'm pronouncing your name, and I'm sorry if I butchered it. But when we were discussing the possible nomination, I found the nominee to be very much qualified, and I do see the enthusiasm, and I believe that he has a background that is quite different than what we usually see on the Judicial Council. So I would encourage the president, and not to put you on the spot, but to consider him as a future nominee. I think the Judicial Council needs people with different paths of life, if you want to say, and just different experiences in academic disciplines. And I think the nominee serves that and much more. And the fact that, you know, they are interested in this position also speaks volumes. So I would encourage that. Thank you.
Thank you, University Senator. I also do appreciate any candidates or any outside members of the SGA who do make the time to attend our meetings. While they are open to the public, it's not often that we see other members here. So I do appreciate making the time and encourage the president to deliberate further on his nomination. Moving forward to—
May I request the floor?
Oh, of course, recognized.
Thank you so much. I too also want to double down on what Senator Schobert has also mentioned in regards to recommending the president. But I do also want to add another reason on top of this, and this is actually something that you said earlier, President, in regards to making sure that the Judicial Council, now that it's 4 members strong, we want to ensure that like there isn't any complications or risk as to making any appeals or any future decisions from now until the time that you decide to do this. I think it's very urgent for you to make the nomination, if not boldly said, at this moment, if it's possible, for Jeremy Argueta. I think that he is, based on his resume, also a fine candidate. Very tough decision, of course, you know, being that there was 1 spot left and Angie is super qualified too, but I think that we strongly suggest you to nominate Jeremy. I think it's a importance of making sure that everything is good, you know, with appeals and stuff like that, ensuring that there's no tiebreaker, because you know, that would be awkward. But yeah, this is my recommendation, and thank you so much. I yield my time back to the chairman.
Thank you, University Senator. Just to clarify, because of procedure, Associate Arbitrator Angie Ruiz, while confirmed, does still need to be onboarded and will not be able to serve until we have an odd number on the Judicial Council, because obviously an even number would be problematic for voting. But of course, this is a matter of urgency, so we'll be awaiting the president's appointment or nomination. Moving forward to new business. Senator Mariam Habib requested to be excused for her absence. If there is no objection, we will be approving Mariam's absence. Okay, hearing none, her absence is approved. Senator Zahra Hussein requested an excused absence. If there's no objection, we will approve this. Okay, hearing no objection, Senator Zahra's absence has been excused. And University Senator Brianna Santiago from the School of Criminal Justice requested absence as well. If there is no objection, her absence will be approved. Okay, hearing no objection, the University Senator's absence is also approved, and hopefully they will be able to give an update about their University Senate meeting at our following meeting in November. Excuse me. Then for new business, we also unfortunately have a request to be excused. So this is a formal resignation submitted personally by Senator Carlos, and this is the motion before the floor. Since it was personally submitted, this does not require a second. And let me see if it's open to discussion. It is debatable. Yes, this is debatable before it proceeds to majority votes. So is there any discussion regarding SPA Senator Carlos's request to be excused from his position? Unfortunately, I was not able to fully debrief or conduct an exit interview. Hopefully, with the establishment of the transition committee, we are able to do so. But is there any discussion? Yes, of course. Recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just on the note of this request to be, relieved of duty, I just want to take a moment and say that as student leaders, I think we should all feel a deep sorrow that this drama got to this point where someone who was inspired to try to make a difference in students' lives felt uninspired to the point that he requested to resign.
Thank you, Chief of Finance. I will add that, I personally tried to reach out, and that is part of the rationale behind creating community guidelines and norms to ensure that we're all respectful and supportive of each other as we're trying to represent and support students. Because ultimately that's what we're all here for, regardless of any differences in opinion on specific matters or legislative items or resolutions. But of course, you all as senators and as legislative members reserve the right to vote on this issue. And yes, thank you for that recognition, President. We will be awaiting the nominations for SPA Senator if we accept Senator Carlos's request to be excused. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, may I be recognized?
Recognized.
Thank you. So I have a few reservations about some of the things that have happened, which have led to Carlos's resignation. And I do believe that it's extremely unfortunate that we have come to a point where, you know, students are feeling uninspired to help the student body and the overall SGA. But I also feel like there was some hostility that was brought up by Carlos in our Senate, you know, private Senate matters. And I personally felt like it was, for lack of better terms, inappropriate behavior, you know, unnecessary drama that was being brought up for no reason. There was a lot of private matters that was brought up for certain nominations and certain candidates that were up for the Judicial Council. And there was a lot of intimidation towards some, you know, senators that have spoken in confidence with the speaker. And seeing that from, you know, the senator, Senator Carlos at the time, I think it was a little inappropriate for that much hostility to be coming around. And I do understand that there is some tension, and that is not the case, and that is not the intention of why I'm speaking out. But I do believe that it is meant to be said, because at the end of the day, how many participants are in this? All 25 of us are here to make, you know, the student body experience better. And I believe that we should all be working towards that cause and not necessarily scaring each other off. Thank you.
Thank you, University Senator. I do agree, like within the official capacity of, you know, our official general body meetings, which are recorded and live streamed to the public, and within, you know, quasi semi-official committee meetings, right, with quorum and whatnot, there are like rules of conduct and expectations, and being a virtual semester makes, you know, behavior in group chat more of a gray area. I do think that it's incredibly important that we all respect and support one another, and do commit to those norms. I highly encourage us all to engage in a deliberative and intentional manner to create these community guidelines and norms. So hopefully we will not have any issues like this or any resignations in the future. So thank you. Is there any further discussion on the motion before the floor, which is Carlos, the SPA Center's request to be excused from their position? Okay, hearing no further discussion, we will now move to majority vote just by voice. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 The motion that we are currently voting on is Carlos's resignation, the request to be excused. All those who were in favor said aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you. And all those opposed say nay. Okay. The ayes have it, and the association formally accepts our SPA Singer's resignation. Hopefully we can debrief and thank him for his contributions and his efforts while we look for a new nomination from the School of Public Administration and Affairs. The next item on the agenda, yes, indeed. Thank you, President. The next item on the agenda is a proposal from the President. So within the constitutional or powers allocated to the President within the bylaws is the ability to propose legislation to be voted on by the Senate. So we thank you for your patience and understanding of any inconvenience caused by the short notice. And the link to the resolution that's being proposed has just been put into the chat and is also hyperlinked in the agenda. This is a resolution to continue the SGA emergency fund. And I will do a primary reading since there was not much time given before this was sent out. So the resolution begins. Whereas the previous SGA worked with the CARE team and Office of Financial Aid to set up an emergency fund using SGA student fee money as part of the larger pool of institutional emergency funding to help students cover costs for basic needs, whereas 108 students were granted $94,885 over the course of spring 2020 and summer 2020 from a total allocation of $141,316. And whereas institutional funds have been prioritized for those ineligible for CARES Act federal funding, this remainder is quickly depleting and overall institutional funding is far less abundant than federal funding. Therefore, now be it resolved that the Rutgers University Newark Student Governing Association calls upon the Chief of Finance to move 50% of funds from the current allocated general fund to the emergency fund, equivalent to $48,298.60. So this is the current motion set before the floor, proposed by the president. As senators, you of course have the legislative ability to amend, table, edit, vote upon this resolution as you see fit. Is there any discussion from the floor?
Mr. Chairman, may I have the floor?
Of course. I ask that senators, when speaking, please phrase their argument either as a motion or argue in favor or against the resolution on the floor. Continue, University Senator.
Okay, well then I guess it's more of a point of information then. It's really a question.
Okay.
So I know that it's been said for like the last few weeks that the funds that we had originally deposited last semester has been quickly depleting. Are there any exact numbers as to how much we are currently working with? Because like I know that phrase has been thrown around, but like, is there any like concrete numbers that we can actually see? Because I know that one important thing for us in keeping this general budget big was for us to have that flexibility to like allocate funds that are definitely needed, especially with this emergency relief fund that we established last semester, but also in other areas that we can now tackle with now that we have more money. For instance, like parking or like books or any other ideas that that the SGA may identify as an issue, as a pressing issue on our campus. So I just wanted to see like what numbers are we working with? Are we working with negatives? Is it a zero? How long do we think can that be sustainable before we actually before we have to make some action?
So I will reiterate, right, in the resolution itself, it states that of the $140,000 in the account, roughly nearly 100,000 was given out over the course of the spring and summer semesters. I believe that from the executive board reports, we were to receive updated numbers by tomorrow, but I'm not sure if any other e-board members might be able to answer that.
Request recognition for the floor.
Of course. Thank you, President.
Okay, yeah. So, right, like this is something I want to do like, earlier on. Pretty much I'm just proposing it now to like nudge things along. The exact numbers we'll be getting tomorrow. We don't have the exact numbers, like what's left, but based on like what I heard, like how large the queue is basically, like what they need to give out, it would make sense that this funding is just like basically almost done. Because those numbers, like that almost 100,000 that was used, does not include this semester whatsoever. And I do know that institutional funding overall, Dean Williams could maybe shed more light on this if you have further questions, but the institutional funding is far less than the federal CARES Act. So the CARES Act was like in the millions. The institutional funding is just pulled from us, the chancellor, different departments, schools, et cetera. It's just way less. So I would think it's just running out slowly. I just wanted to get like move some funding into it like a week or two ago, but we're like busy with everything else. So I just want to kind of nudge that along. If you feel like you want to do 40% or 60, I mean, you can motion to amend that, but the exact numbers we won't get until tomorrow. But I just brought it up today because I feel like we're a little late on it, just moving in at least a big chunk. If you want to like lessen that, just so we can start the process of moving it in now, we can do that and then move more money into it later. That's another option as well.
Thank you, President. I will add, like presumably there's less than $40,000, whereas nearly $100,000 was spent over the spring and summer semesters. With the summer semester, obviously, having fewer students being enrolled or on campus than usual. I will add that the budget is a big item of the SGA and a big part of how we support students. I have been encouraging legislation from the Senate for the past 2 weeks. So I'd like to hear a motion to amend or other discussion regarding this resolution. Is there any discussion from the floor?
Mr. Chairman, can I be recognized?
Thank you, Vice President.
Hello, everyone. I'm Carolyn, Vice President. So we did post exact numbers at the beginning of the semester, like at the end of September, when we met with financial aid and they told us how much money was available for the semester. So the total allocations from the spring and summer was $141,000, and $94,000 was given to students in need, and then $46,000 was available for this semester. When we met with financial aid, they told us, a lot of people are applying for this fund, and this is only for the emergency relief fund, of course, as Harrison and Dylan mentioned. The CARES Act is like much larger, but CARES Act is also open for a lot of other students, whereas the emergency relief fund is only open, for specific amount of students on campus or those who received the email. And we do believe that this fund is depleted as of now. $46,000 isn't a lot of money compared to our student body. And at the beginning of the semester, when we voted on the budget, our main priority was, or when the senators voted on the budget, their main priority was, to give money back to students for those who are in need. And I think given the unprecedented time that we're in right now, and, with the flu coming and, since we're already in October and we're, almost in winter, situations are getting worse, and more people are going to be getting, infected. And it is during these times that we need to be there for the student body. And this resolution is to, make sure that we're there for students in need and we support them during these difficult times. So we do hope that, at least 50% of the general fund is dedicated to students who are in need to support them and be there for them. And of course, any amendments can be made if necessary.
Thank you, Vice President. Is there any discussion from the floor?
Wait, just a point of information to Carolyn. So what do you mean by amending? You mean amending like the 50% that's being allocated right now to the CARES budget?
Yes. So the resolution states 50%, but it is up to the senators if they want to dedicate less or more, depending on your plans for the semester.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. I was okay, because I thought you meant like after we voted that we can amend it.
Yeah.
Gotcha. You meant by like before we voted.
Yeah, the motion before the floor is the resolution as is. It can be amended, any part can be amended as the senators wish and vote upon. But I think the fundamental question is the percentage.
Yes, and our chief of finance actually reached out to the financial aid office for specific numbers, so hopefully we should have that by tomorrow.
Do I hear any discussion or motion from the floor? I do understand that this was brought with fairly short notice and that we are approaching the 12:50 mark. Do I hear a motion to extend the time or postpone or any other motions from the floor?
Motion to postpone the discussion on the resolution, I believe. Sorry.
There's a motion before the floor to postpone discussion on resolution R1, proposal to continue the SGA emergency fund for fall 2020 until what time period, Senator?
Next meeting.
Until the next meeting, thank you. The time element of this motion is debatable. Do I hear a second?
I second that.
Second.
Okay, it has been motioned by Akwe and seconded by Miriam. It is now before floor before proceeding to majority vote. Is there any discussion on the motion to postpone? Okay, hearing none, we will now move to a majority vote. All those in favor of postponing, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
And all those against, say nay. Okay, didn't hear many voices, but the ayes have it, and this has been postponed and will be taken up as old business during the following meeting, the following general body meeting of October 26th, 2020. The motion now before the floor is the issue of committees before we adjourn. Are there any motions from the floor?
Okay, so I moved to form the media committee for any matters relating to media and engagement, student engagement with the Student Government Association and the student body in general, with myself as chair, Akwe Borde, the media senator, and Afnan as a member, Robert as a member, and Tone and Zeke.
Okay, it's been motioned to form the media committee with Akwe as chair. Would you be able to put in the chat Afnan, Robert, and Tony and Zeke as members? Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Do I hear a second to form the media committee?
Second.
Okay, it has been motioned by our media center and second by SAS and Senator Sueta. It will now proceed to majority vote by voice. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, thank you. All those opposed say nay. Okay, congratulations. The media committee has been formed with Akwe, our media senator, as chair. I do understand we're running up against the time, but without, if there's no objection from the Senate, we will continue if there are any other committees that the Senate would like to form at today's meeting.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, may I have the floor?
Of course, recognized.
Thank you. I move to create the Sexual Assault Prevention Committee with myself, Sarah Shoba, as the chair.
I second.
Thank you. It has been moved by University Senator Sarah and seconded by Media Senator Akwe. Point of information, do you have a list of members at this time?
I do. Do you want Senate members or do you also want outside student members?
Senate members for the purposes of voting, please.
Okay, I have Speaker Tanvi Patel, Mira Desai, Zara Hussain, and Ricky Castaneda.
So Speaker Tanvi, Ricky, and Zahra?
Yes, and Mira.
And Mira, thank you very much. It has been motioned and seconded. The motion before floor is the formation of the Sexual Assault Prevention Committee. Is there any discussion for the floor? Okay, hearing no discussion, we will now proceed to a majority vote by voice. All those in favor of forming the committee, say aye.
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 Fantastic. And all those opposed, say nay. Very well, the ayes have it, and the Sexual Assault Prevention Committee has been formed. Congratulations. Is there any further motions from the floor? Okay, I understand we're running up against time. Do we hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All right, thank you very much, Speaker. Thank you all for your time. I'll be staying back a little bit longer if there are any members of the public or any other questions or issues you would like to bring up. Congratulations, and I'd love to see further work on our budget for the following meeting, either in the form of amendments to the current resolution that will be in old business, or if you feel so inclined, writing your own resolution, and I can definitely help out in advising that as well. Thank you very much. Take care. Best of luck with midterms.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye, everyone. Have a
take
good
care.
week. Best of luck on midterms. Stay safe.
Take care, everyone.
You too.
Get your flu shots.